house I bought for next to nothing. It was all that was left after my husband and the shitty life he left behind. I thought I'd start fresh, away from the prying eyes and pitying faces. Instead, I found a house where the floorboards creaked like they were mocking me. Snow covered everything. A white void stretched all around, with only the wind lashing against the windows like it wanted to crawl inside and devour us. Us, me and Artyom, my boy. He was 6 and still clung to his teddy bear, which he called Mishka. It was just the two of us against this world. And this house, it was against us too. The first night passed quietly, aside from the creaks under the bed. The second night, I heard rustling. Not rats, no. Rats are small, scared. This was something else. Heavy, deliberate, like someone shifting below us. In the morning, I found footprints on the kitchen floor, bare feet. I asked Artyom if he'd gotten up at night. He shook his head and stared at me like I'd asked a question he already knew the answer to. It was him, he said. Who's him? Artyom just shrugged and went back to playing with his toy. There was a hatch in the basement. A fucking hatch. Who puts a hatch in a basement? And why? It looked like an ancient wooden coffin embedded in the ground, covered in dirt and time. It seemed like it hadn't been touched in decades. Opening it felt like breaking some eternal pact. But I did it anyway. The stench hit me first, like a public restroom abandoned for years. Cold air seeped out, and below was a tunnel, narrow as a throat, black as my thoughts. I shut the hatch and decided that was it. Enough. I wouldn't go back down there again. Artyom started talking at night, quietly, in whispers. I'd wake up and go to his room, asking who he was talking to. To him, he'd reply. To who, Artyom? To the he says he lives under the floor. Ish, that's when I knew none of this was funny. But what could I do? Leave. There was nowhere to go. No money. In this place, where the walls seemed to breathe and the floors whispered secrets back to you. On the 5th night, I heard someone walking through the house. Footsteps. Slow at first, then bolder. I sat on the bed clutching something metal. Maybe a lamp, maybe a candlestick. I can't even remember. The steps stopped at the door. Silence. Then the sound, like claws dragging across wood. A scrape. I don't know how much time passed. When I finally got the courage to step out, Artyom was gone. His footprints led to the basement. Tiny bare footprints, thin as lifelines etched by fate into the dust. The hatch was open. I grabbed a flashlight and climbed down. The tunnel felt endless. The walls were covered in some sort of slime. The air was thick, like a hangover, where every movement feels like a struggle. At the end of the tunnel, there was a cavern. A massive black cavern where the ceiling was lost to darkness. Bones littered the floor, and there, in the center, was Artyom. He was sitting in a circle of figures I couldn't even describe. Smoky, faceless things with no eyes. They whispered something, and he laughed. I called out to him. He lifted his head. "Mama, they showed me their home," he said. The figures turned to look at me, and that was it. I came back alone. Now they call me crazy. No one believes a word I say, but I still hear the whispers. Every night. Sometimes it's his voice. "Mama, I'm waiting for you."